Hello and welcome to Module 2, Why Have a P3O? In this module, we will cover the following syllabus areas. At level 1, recall, we would be looking into the ways that a P3O can help an organization deliver its strategy. And at level 2 we would look into how a P3O can help an organization deliver its strategy and add value, including its role in supporting and enabling business change governance. Let me use the highlighter as a part of the annotation tool to take you through the contents on this particular slide. We would look into the best management practice principles for extracting value. In other words, if we ought to bring about a great value using a P3O model, there are certain principles that we need to comply with. So we would kind of examine those principles from program and project management and how a P3O model can help deliver them. We would examine how to recognize stakeholders and the typical requirements of different stakeholders. In P3O environments, we work with stakeholders at delivery, at management and directing layers, and even stakeholders outside the organization. So how do we recognize them? And the typical requirements of different stakeholders is something that we're going to look into. And there is a unique concept called the P3O value matrix. We will kind of examine the contents of this matrix and how it can be used to identify stakeholder needs. We would look into how we could recognize the problems to be solved by establishing the P3O and the analysis of recent issues and reviews. And there are a few more syllabus areas that we would cover at level 2. We would use P3M3 assessments to identify key P3O functions. In other words, we might not want to implement all functions in one go. We would need to gauge where we stand as an organization in terms of our maturity. And according to our maturity, we might want to design a plan to identify those functions which would be of benefit for us as of today. And then we could work on a plan to implement other functions as a long-term plan. And we would also look into the role of the outline vision statement and initial blueprint in defining how the P3O will add value. In other words, when we implement a new P3O model, we need to kind of look into what our vision is. What is it that we are targeting at? And what are the capabilities? What would be the target operating model in terms of the kind of functionalities that we would have as a part of the P3O model? So we would kind of examine that particular bit of the syllabus. And then we would kind of look into the purpose, typical contents, and approach to developing the P3O business case. Very similar to drafting a business case for any project or program, implementing a P3O is itself a project or a program, and we would need to have a business case for this implementation. So what are the contents that would go into that business case? And what approach would we like to take are things that we're going to cover. And we're going to look into typical P3O capabilities and linked outcomes, benefit drivers, and the use of a benefit map to show relationship between outputs, capabilities, outcomes, and benefits. Now, it's a very important exercise, especially when we work on implementing a P3O model. We could either begin benefits mapping from the outputs towards the benefits, or we could kind of work the other way. We might articulate the benefits that we would like to see, and we might want to think about how would those benefits be supported by certain outcomes, and how would these outcomes be supported by having these capabilities in place, for example, and how do we have these capabilities in place by having these outputs in place. So you could kind of map it either way. So we would kind of look into some ideas pertaining to mapping the benefits from the outputs towards the benefits fund. And we would examine the typical constraints or limitations and how they impact on implementation. And how do we gauge the success of a P3O implementation? In other words, what can be the measurements that we could use to say, well, this particular initiative, this particular implementation was a successful one? So we would kind of look into some key performance indicators to gauge the success of a P3O implementation. And we would kind of give you some examples of those KPIs. And finally, we will conclude this particular module with understanding the common barriers to P3O implementation and how to overcome. So we're going to start off with an understanding of the value of P3O for senior managers. So this particular idea or concept is dealt with in 3 slides. Now, what does a P3O do for the senior managers? It kind of maintains a big picture understanding of the business change. In other words, it kind of gives in a single snapshot an understanding of all the projects and the programs and the BAU elements in a singular view. So it kind of provides a big picture perspective for the senior managers. It supports, enables the governance backbone of an organization. Now, remember, we talked about the 3 Ps earlier on. The 3 Ps stand for portfolio, program, and project. Managing portfolios, or rather directing portfolios, are portfolio boards. Governing programs are the program boards. Governing the projects are the project boards. And therefore, P3O would enable providing the needed support and enables the governance board to have the needed information to take the right calls. So what else does a P3O provide in terms of value? It ensures that the right programs and projects are launched. In other words, it kind of helps in making sure that we are investing in those programs and projects that are aligned with the strategy of the organization. It ensures consistency of delivery. In other words, as a part of the P3O model, the centers of excellence can provide standards and processes to bring about a consistency of delivery. And it also ensures that things are done well, things are done right the first time, and P3Os can provide independent oversight, independent assurance, scrutiny, and challenge. And these are the value adds that a P3O would provide for the senior managers. So what are the value elements can we think about? On the next slide, we've got a few more ideas. Now, developing a P3O model which delivers value requires full senior management support, an investment of both time and money by senior managers to design and build the most effective, suitable, and affordable model for the organization, and an investment in the skills required to ensure it is successful. In other words, for a P3O model to provide value for the organization, there has to be a commitment from senior management. There has to be an allocation of investment, commitment of resources to design and to build the most affordable models for an organization. Senior managers' time is required to understand the challenges an organization faces, what its priorities are, and which programs and projects will help them deliver the strategy. In other words, as a part of the P3O implementation, we would need to take the senior managers into confidence in terms of understanding what are the challenges we face in the organization, what do they consider as priorities in terms of what projects and programs should we kind of work on, let's say in this particular quarter or in this particular part of the year, and what programs and projects we would be targeting at a later point. And these senior managers need to invest time in attending workshops and meetings with their peers and P3O professionals to understand what would be an appropriate model and to agree on a common vision for the P3O for the future. So the engagement of senior management is a critical success factor. Now, what additional value would a P3O provide for senior managers? It provides assurance, it provides confidence, it provides the needed support for making decisions, It helps in coaching and mentoring program and project workforce. It could include project managers, program coordinators, project facilitators, project support workforce. And it also provides one version of the truth reporting function. Oftentimes, when we work within organizations, we have information coming from multiple sources. A P3O would kind of act as a single source of truth reporting in terms of the contents for the management dashboards. It reduces likelihood and impact of events that have negative consequences, and it increases likelihood and impact of events that have positive consequences. In other words, the P3O community would make sure that threats and opportunities are kind of monitored on an ongoing basis. Some additional value adds are on the next slide. It improves organizational accountability. It improves decision making when P3Os act as a single source of truth, when they provide the needed information, timely information, accurate information to the members of the boards. It would enable effective decision making. There would be a transparency of the progress of the projects at a collective level within the organization. There would be a visibility of resources and the various initiatives in the portfolio pipeline. And P3O also identifies, understands, and manages multiple and cross-cutting risks and issues. It protects revenue and spend, enhances value for money, facilitates change more effectively and efficiently, improves organizational program and project delivery by making sure that right program and project standards are in place. The program and project managers are coached, mentored, and trained on the relevant standards. And it also protects reputation and stakeholder confidence.